Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Sam Vassallo, joined by Yannick Parch. How are you?
Very good.
Very good. This is your debut, so everyone welcome Yannick onto the team. And here are today's headlines. So Maltese parents speak out on struggles of online learning. Meanwhile, Malta's Paralympic prospect athletes risk missing summer games. Hunting season in Malta set to get a green light despite COVID-19 restrictions. A Maltese cystic fibrosis patient hospitalized after calls for life-saving medicine. And lastly, no evidence that ASTRAZENECA vaccine causes blood clots, says the pharmaceutical giant. Let's start with our first headline. So just as we remember the anniversary of the first COVID-19 case in Malta and schools closing a week after in 2020, students, teachers and practically all of us are feeling this collective deja vu. So schools, of course, have closed again. Same with non-essential shops and everything. It's been a sigh of relief for students and teachers, but not for everyone, including parents with children with disabilities. They have been left feeling helpless, as some children have these conditions which require physical support during lessons. Now, if you're a parent and you have a child who cannot sit down alone for 2 seconds, how do you expect them to stay still for 6 hours in front of a screen with no help whatsoever? So Lovin Malta spoke to a lot of parents who feel, frankly, left in the dark as schools, resort to online learning. Now, understandably, LSEs, fear the more contagious COVID-19 variant that Malta is battling right now, and especially since some children are exempt from wearing the mask, which could encourage the spread of COVID-19. Now, hopefully, lockdown does expire in April, and in the meantime, the Commissioner for Persons of Disabilities has said that the COVID-19 task force is tackling the situation. On to our next COVID-19 related story.
Yes, so the pandemic has also left its mark on Malta's athletes. Malta's Paralympic athletes risk missing out on this year's Summer Paralympics in Tokyo as a result of the latest COVID-19 measures, which have seen all sporting events banned. In order for them to qualify for the Olympics, they require to have competed in an official game and to have recorded a time, something which is looking increasingly unlikely given the way things are going. Superintendent for Public Health Charmaine Gauci has said that it is possible for national team players to get an exemption to be able to compete in such events, but it's not clear at this point whether this is an option for these athletes. Hopefully it is.
Exactly. And meanwhile, while most things are shut and our athletes are battling to do what they're destined for, some are exempt from the rule and some rules don't apply, including to hunters. So spring hunting season is set to go ahead despite COVID-19 restrictions. So the Ornis Committee, which is a government consultative body on hunting and bird conservation, will meet tomorrow to discuss opening hunting season for quail. It is expected to open between 30th March and 20th April. It went ahead last year while we were all, coming to terms with the first lockdown, and unfortunately conservation NGO BirdLife warned that figures tripled in terms of illegalities when it comes to shooting protected birds. Now, police are legally obliged to patrol areas when hunting season is open, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19 restraints and enforcement, there's a fear that illegalities might shoot up again.
Our next story is about a Maltese cystic fibrosis patient who's been hospitalized after calls for life-saving medicine. The young Maltese girl, 26-year-old Mandivella, was hospitalized over the weekend with a chest infection, which she says could have been prevented had she had access to a recently approved life-saving medicine. There is a ray of hope for Mandy because the health minister has said that discussions are underway to have the medication added to the official list. However, her wait is not yet over.
Indeed. So, we're battling this pandemic, COVID-19. It kind of put everything else in terms of health on a back burner. We've seen this with sexual health services. We've seen this with, unfortunately, patients who are battling rare diseases like Mandivella. But this, brings the issue again to the forefront of patients with rare diseases having to rely on charity for a chance of life. I think, frankly, it's time that we reassess this, and hopefully people like Mandy don't have to resort to kind of public begs in order just to have a chance of a dignified life. On to our last story of the day, on the ASTRAZENECA vaccine. So, as you probably know, a number of countries, including Germany, France, Italy, and Spain, have temporarily stopped using the British jab after some reports of blood clots. Patients who took the jab and had blood clots after. Now, AstraZeneca has rebuked these fears, saying that there's absolutely no indication that these conditions are linked to its jab. After 17 million people in the bloc, received the AstraZeneca vaccine, and there's just a handful, I believe it's 22 patients who had blood clot conditions. It seems very, very unlikely that there is a link. In fact, the WHO and the European Medicines Authority have both found no link between the vaccine and blood clots and these conditions. So, of course, this is just an appeal again to listen to health authorities. Take the jab when your appointment comes. It's the last push. We're in it together, and hopefully we'll get out of this sooner than later. That's all from us on Lovin Daily, and have a day full of lovin'.